2021 is going to be a hard year to forget. Americans have been through a lot in the last 12 months. The year began with a tough challenge for green energy. Low temperatures hit the United States by surprise. Texas was the worst hit because 25% of its electricity comes from wind turbines. They stopped spinning and froze. The Texas governor blamed Joe Biden and his new environmental regulations for the disaster that ensued.
Texas is going to protect the oil and gas industry from any type of hostile attack launched from Washington, D.C.
President Obama pushed wind turbines pretty hard, and despite last winter's disaster, Biden is still giving them a big role.
A key plank of our Build Back Better recovery plan is building a modern, resilient climate infrastructure and clean energy future that will create millions of good-paying union jobs.
All that eco-friendly energy was not prepared for some cold weather. Energy providers could not manage. Utility bills were through the roof.
I'm pretty much paid $9 a kilowatt for electricity, but I was very conservative with my electricity, so I have no idea exactly why this bill is so much, but it's steadily going up. I absolutely cannot afford it. I'm not exactly sure, who can. It's gotten to the point where some people have totally turned off their power because they can't afford, enough is enough. They just can't afford it. It's a basic necessity for living. Basic utilities should not cost thousands.
And then there was COVID. The total death toll in America rose to about 800,000. Joe Biden's COVID mandate, requiring people to get the jab in order to keep their jobs, resulted in employee shortages, protests, and even rioting. Many different reasons were cited by people for opposing it.
No vaccine mandate! No vaccine passport! No! Thank you. That's all. Segregation and discrimination. Take your mask off, you need your oxygen to breathe.
Important public services like firefighters, police, and even airlines were a hard hit, despite government attempts to convince people that vaccination against COVID is vital.
A lot of people fear, and I think rightly so, that they could end up on the street with no paycheck. In the United States, we are already under a very, I would call it severe shortage of qualified individuals to be mechanics, to be flight attendants, to be pilots specifically. Half of the industry could potentially be gone.
It's not just COVID that's killing people. Street crime is getting worse. Many cities had the highest crime rates they've ever had since the 90s. Last year, the rallying cry was defund the police, but many are starting to backtrack on that, saying they don't feel safe and they need protection.
Defund the police, just as a regular rule, has been a colossal failure. Any place they've tried to implement defund the police, crime has gone up, whether it's been in New York, Chicago, in Minneapolis, in LA. It's been a colossal failure because what stops crime and what brings crime down, especially violent crime, are more police on the street. You have to have police on the street in order for your streets to be safe.
Now, things have also been heating up on the border. 2 million migrants have been arrested illegally crossing the border. That's the highest rate in 20 years. Now, many thought that Joe Biden's election on a promise of softer immigration policies was a signal that opened up the floodgates. But in reality, Biden did not end up changing many of Trump's immigration policies. Asylum seekers still have to wait in Mexico, and the detention facilities along the U.S.-Mexico border are still just as ugly.
How many children have been in the Biden cages in calendar year 2021?
Senator, I respectfully disagree with your use of the term cages.
Oh, by the way, here's a photograph of the Biden cages.
That, Senator, that is precisely why I articulated.
Children sleeping on floors, crashed in upon each other. When I took this photograph, the rate of COVID positivity was over 10%.
All of this while prices are rising. Inflation is the name of the game. The USA is facing the highest rate of inflation in 40 years, with more than half of Americans saying that they think the Biden administration is only making things worse.
It's been a terrible year for inflation. It's up around 8% or higher. This is the levels that we haven't seen since back in the Jimmy Carter years in the 70s, when the government just prints money out of thin air and spends it on things and gives it to people. It causes the value of your money to go down. That's what's happening in America. The government is printing money, spending more than it brings in, and actually the proposals to deal with it mostly are going to make things worse.
The USA leaving Afghanistan after 20 years of military presence forced Washington to answer some questions about whether hundreds of billions of taxpayers' dollars were basically left to waste, not forgetting the countless lives lost on both the American and Afghan side.
The extraordinary success of this mission was due to the incredible skill, bravery, and selfless courage of the United States military and our diplomats and intelligence professionals. It was designed to save American lives.
This left the majority of Americans blaming Joe Biden for the Afghan pullout, with politicians from all across the political spectrum joining the chorus. The most illegal migrant crossings in 20 years, the highest crime rates in 30 years, and a 40-year high in inflation, as well as the end of a 2-decade military operation. After a year of bad records, many Americans are hoping that 2022 will bring respite. Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.